Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Llama, and with the recent success of my video looking at the do's and don'ts for pre-patch, I wanted to get this one out for you to look at the do's and don'ts in my opinion for the launch day of Wrath of the Lich King Classic. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Just before we dive in though, a couple things I need to get out of the way. Firstly, if I don't sound my best today, I do apologise. I'll be trying to edit as best in post as I can, but I do currently have COVID sadly, and it is affecting me quite badly. And secondly, anybody who is aware of the poll I recently put out requesting a TSM guide as my next video for Wrath, do not worry, it is on its way. I have just prioritised this video first given the time sensitive nature of it. So, without further ado, let's dive in. So, the first thing on our list of do's for the Wrath of the Lich King launch day is going to be Borean Tundra and possibly even Dragonblight. And I don't mean doing these zones in general, I mean doing them in favour of doing Howling Fjord. Now, without a doubt, Howling Fjord is a better zone than Borean Tundra, but as a result, it is infinitely more popular. So if you are going to have any concerns with regards to the capacity to do quests due to competition, I would highly recommend that you go over to Borean Tundra as opposed to Dragonblight, as it will be far less populated. Of course, no one knows how the launch is going to go. We could end up with an awful lot of layering and fast respawns, making it not much of a problem. But if we're not going to have it be like that, you're probably going to have a better time in Borean Tundra, or possibly even just skipping straight into Dragonblight, when most people don't see it as an option, rather going for the conventional starting zones. Our first don't for Wrath of the Lich King launch day is going to be panicking over professions. Now, professions are incredibly important in Wrath of the Lich King, and they are something you're going to want to get done really early on. But anyone who's played a launch day is going to know that things that are going to be used for the levelling of your professions are highly likely going to be selling for obscene amounts. You're going to have a horrible time trying to farm the materials that are required, and you, quite frankly, aren't going to be getting any advantage over people in professions that have already been doing their prep work for months in advance, and probably already going to have their professions pretty much close to maxed out by virtue of doing the preparation of materials from TBC crafts that they will be able to do up to the point that they go grey. With that being said, you are of course going to want to do your professions, so don't think that I'm suggesting that you don't, but it can certainly wait a day or two. Next up on our do's list is going to be undermanning dungeons, by which I mean doing a dungeon and instead of doing it as a 5-man, you could be doing it as a 4, 3, 2 or maybe even soloing it. This is going to be infinitely more efficient than doing 5-man dungeons for most groups. Now, this is because when you hit instance lockout, you are of course not gaining experience when you are just sat at the portal waiting for a dungeon. Now, of course, if you're not going to be all that optimal, or maybe you're not going to clear the dungeons all that fast, this is kind of a moot point. But the returns of experience in smaller group sizes is absolutely fantastic, so if you happen to have a friend that you want to 2-man the dungeons with and you have the right comp for it, do consider giving it a go, as it can be an incredibly fast way of levelling. This does lead nicely onto our next don't though, which is not to leave your friends behind for the sake of being optimal. Now, chances are you aren't going to get realm firsts, because people will have already done the prep work to a higher standard than you will have done if you are watching a guide a few days before on launch day. That being said, that doesn't mean we don't strive to get ourselves optimised. But one thing that we often consider in our optimizations is the amount of experience per hour we're going to get, hitting lockouts and things like that. But I know of a lot of people who are abandoning their friends, not factoring in the difficulty of developing those social connections going forward when you are then going to be looking for people for your raids and dungeons when you're at max level. There is absolutely no reason to alienate your friends for the sake of getting 20,000 experience an hour more. Plus, playing with your friends is probably going to be more beneficial for our next do, which is remembering to have fun. I know a lot of people are optimizing, myself included, to be able to level very efficiently and be able to make the most out of their time on the opening few days of the expansion. But that level of optimization can be fun, but you can go over the top and you can make it to a point where you're not actually enjoying playing the game. And that is where you're going to find yourself having issues. It's also where you're most likely going to find yourself burning out. And if that's the case, that'll make it ultimately less efficient as well, meaning you've lost on both counts. So do not forget that this is a game and you should try having fun with it. If you listen to that particular do, then our next done is probably going to happen by default, and that will be rushing for server first. You don't want to rush for server first. The people who aren't having fun playing the game are going to be the people who get that achievement. Chances are, even if you tried your absolute hardest, if you haven't done months and months of prep work, spending tens if not hundreds of thousands of gold to get it done in advance, you're probably not going to get any of the server first achievements. By all means, if you find it fun to try, go for it. You may well get lucky. But don't be disheartened when you ultimately don't get it, because in reality, the people who are going to get these achievements are the people who have put a ridiculous amount of time, effort, and probably money into being able to do so. Speaking of money, if you have any gold left that you are willing to part with before launch day, a good investment would be consumables that you are going to be popping like candy. Now, anyone looking to be optimal will be able to realise that the absolute crash of pretty much all of the markets for TBC related profession crafts, including consumables, means that you can pick up most of the things that are going to optimise your character insanely cheap. This means that you can have very large boosts to performance for practically no cost, and if it gets you even slightly ahead of the rest of the pack when you are levelling, that is going to be worth infinitely more to you than the few gold that you might have saved by not purchasing these consumables. And our final don't is going to relate to gold again, in what you don't want to purchase, that being the Mammoth Mount or the Dalaran Teleport Ring on day one. These are absolutely purchases you're going to want to make, and absolutely not before you get exalted with the reputation discount faction associated to them. It will simply be a waste of thousands and thousands of gold. Of course, I know a lot of you buy gold, and if that's the case, then that's a terrible way to play the game, but if you are in that position, then by all means ignore me, and you can spend your gold on whatever you would like. However, I think you'd be much better off farming the Kirintor reputation to get the discounts, even if you have the gold lying around, because ultimately this expansion is going to be very expensive, and there will be better uses for your money than throwing it down the drain to get this mountain ring early. But that's going to about wrap it up for me today, guys. I do hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you appreciate my eagerness to get this video out to you despite my current condition, then a like to the video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. But for now, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Later.